Herod, and this is my talk. Thank you very much to ConnectTech for allowing me to come here. This is actually the first presentation I've ever given at any conference, so if you think back to like keynote talk this morning, I'm the nervous person up here. In fact, I'm so nervous that it's probably best that nobody's sitting up here. I might vomit on them. We'll see how this goes. So, I've never done this before. We'll see how it goes. I'm just an average developer though, so I'm not really sure what I would have to give to you, and so I thought about that for a long period of time. I am a good enough developer to actually be gainfully employed, and my employment is with Warner Media, and the only reason I'm bringing up that, because they're not actually sponsoring me to be here, I've come on my own accord for some reason. The only reason I bring that up is because whatever opinions I might say are not the opinions of Warner Media, nor are they the opinions of their parent company, AT&T. So with that in mind, let's get on with the talk here. I'm going to show you some code, so people in the back, you probably will not be able to see that. In fact, it doesn't matter, because whatever code that I show you, like I said, I'm just an average developer. It's immaterial. So don't worry about that if you can't see anything. I'll sort of describe it. So sit back and relax, and what I'm going to do is for the next hour or so is try and tell you a story of an average developer. So late last spring, I woke up in the middle of the night with this brilliant idea. This happens to me quite often. I wake up in the middle of the night and I have these brilliant ideas in my head. And this particular idea was, I want to go on a road trip. I mean, I've been stuck in my house for over a year. It was time to get out on the road. And in my mind, what I had envisioned was something like what you did in college maybe, where like at 11 o'clock at night, you climb into the car, you don't bring any stuff except for a lot of cash, maybe your credit card, and you just drive. And you come to an intersection, you flip a coin, determine which way to go, you just go one way or the other. It doesn't matter. You end up sleeping on public lands. You wake up in the morning with cows chewing their cud right over your face. Yeah, so that was my idea of this. This was my brilliant idea. Well, it turns out that now I'm actually married and I have 2 kids, and my wife had no desire to go on such a road trip. So she did want to go on a road trip though, but she said you have to have an itinerary, you have to have a destination. So all right, somewhat disgruntledly, I found out a good destination. I chose a small hamlet up in northern Midwest called Hell, Michigan, population 72. And I came up with an itinerary, like an 8-day road trip to get up there. It's kind of a winding path, as you can see, despite perhaps the destination was predetermined, but at least this time you can see that I'm not going straight there, just like my mama said. So I came with this destination. So we're going to have strange, since it's not my college-style road trip, we're going to have kind of strange pictures to share at Thanksgiving this year. For example, here's a scenic picture of me in Michigan. When you have kids, you have to worry about clothes and what kind of clothes to bring. And so not only did I have to come with this itinerary and Airbnb and a destination, I also had to tell my kids what to pack. I have a daughter who's 16, I have a son who is 13, so teenagers, my wife, we're all packed into a van. So to prepare, I would go out to, whether underground or something like that, I would look and figure out what the weather is in Atlanta. Then I would go to the next destination, which if you saw the list there was Killen, Alabama. I would go to Weather Underground, type in Killen, look at their 10-day forecast, grab out the days that I needed, go to the third location, which would be Transylvania, Louisiana, go to the 10-day forecast, grab out the days that I needed, and I created a forecast for where we were going to be on every particular day. Well, that became quite tedious, and it was just a couple nights later when I had another brilliant idea. And that brilliant idea was to write a script. I'm a developer. I can write a JavaScript script that will go out to a weather API service and grab the 10-day forecast or whatever for every city that I was going to, and stitch together a forecast for where I was going to be on every day in the next 10 days or 16 days or whatever. Brilliant idea. So it turns out that I often have brilliant ideas, as I said before, and it turns out that often those brilliant ideas are the exact same brilliant ideas that I had before. And indeed, I had this exact same idea once back in 2011. I don't know if you guys can see that back there. Can you see the numbers there? 2011, good. So, in 2011, I started a project where I had an itinerary, and I wanted to display or gather the dates of places where I was going to be in a JavaScript object like this right here. It's just has a key called base, and there it has Atlanta, Georgia. So typically I'm going to be in Atlanta. And then it has every day going down. So on the 13th, I'm going to be in Killen, that's Saturday. On Sunday, I'm going to be in Transylvania. 15th and 16th, I'm going to be in Goobertown. My wife sometimes says that I live perpetually in Goobertown, so I wanted to stay there at least 2 nights for her, etc. So I came up with the towns I wanted. Next thing I did is I went out to programmableweb.com, which has a place where you can find APIs to do most anything. For example, I went here and I searched for weather, and I see right down here that there's if you look down here in this small numbers right there, 387 weather APIs to choose from. Now these APIs, generally a lot of them have forecasts, so I found one actually that had a 16-day forecast, but for this demo, I'm going to stick with suggesting that I would choose one with just 5 days, just so we don't get overwhelmed with the number of days. So I've chosen my API, and I'm going to do a 5-day forecast. So let me draw a picture real quick of how the script is going to work. And I'm going to do that using a spreadsheet here. So basically, what I need to do is first I need to come up with an array of dates, and it's going to start with today. So for example, today's the 10th. I'm going to get a 5-day forecast, so I'm going to go out 5 days. Oops. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to get an array of 5 dates. And then for those 5 dates, I'm going to look down and see what city I'm going to be in on those 5 days. So this green section down here, you can see that for the next 5 days, well, I'm going to be in Atlanta today, Atlanta tomorrow, Atlanta on Friday, then Killen, then Transylvania. So now I have days that are useful for me to use this API. Next thing I need to do is just get a unique list of cities that I'm going to be in. So Atlanta, Killen, Transylvania. And then I just need to make 3 calls to my API endpoint. And then when I get back the results of those 3 cities, I'll be able to stitch something together and have a forecast, personalized forecast for myself. So let's just look at that again real quick in code. Once again, doesn't matter if you can't see it. I'm going to start with my itinerary. Oops. I'm going to not skip everything. First thing I have to do is, for my itineraries, I need to come up with a list of dates. So I'm going to generate a list of dates starting from today, whatever day that happens to be. Next, I'm going to figure out where I'm going to be on that day. The third thing I need to do is determine a unique set of cities that I'm going to be in. And the last thing I'm going to do is make an API call with that city as an endpoint. So simple enough, right? So let's go work on the first piece there. Let me scroll this up here again. So the first thing I need to do is get an array of dates starting from today. And so I started off with a function called getDates, and I put in the number of dates that I want, in this case 5. And so then I decided, well, I need to get some kind of algorithm that will give me an array of dates between 2 dates. And so I went out to Google and I did a search with some things, and I ended up going to, as many average developers like myself do, I ended up on Stack Overflow. And I looked down here and to see what their solution was real quick here, and I see right here, I don't know if you can see that back there, but it says date.prototype.addDay. So obviously we just need to add some function to the global object date. That's what they did, that's what I'm going to do. So sure enough, I went and wrote some code right here. And here you can see it. I'm not going to go into the details, but I'm using I added a function to the date global object. And if you actually run this, which I have up here in this window, it works. There's my 5 dates right there. So step 1 is done. Step 2, I need to, given an itinerary and a set of 5 dates, I need to figure out what day I'm going to be in each city. So in this case, it looks like I used a for loop right here, for I equals 0, blah, blah, blah. I stepped through the dates. I figured out what city I was going to be in there. Brilliant. Let's see if that works. It does. Nice. We're going great. This is a great project. Next thing is I have this object that has where I'm going to be on each date, but now I want to get the unique set of dates. And so I did a little bit of searching around. I found this JavaScript operator called for_n, and I used it a couple times. Somehow, I'm not really sure exactly what I did there, but anyways, I ran that, I coded that up and I ran it, and sure enough, there we are, it works. We have cities, we have Atlanta is not represented 3 times, it's only in there once. Atlanta, Killen, and Transylvania. So there, perfect. Step 4 is I need to get the forecast for a city. So for starters, I'm just going to get a forecast for Atlanta, just to figure out how all this works right here. So this time, once again, I have no idea how to make an HTTP call at this time back in 2011. So I went out to the web and once again ended up on Stack Overflow, and I found this code right here. And there's a lot of words on this page, but I've copied the code that they had and I put it into a script here and removed all the excess cruft and stuff like that. And basically what we end up with here is this code right here, which is, it looks like we have this HTTP object, and then there's a function on there called get, and get takes a URL, and it takes the second parameter is some kind of callback function, and that function takes a parameter called res, which I guess is response, and then there's all this strange oddity stuff. We're waiting for events of data and end, and this was all very confusing. I have no idea what I'm talking about right now, even based on what we're looking at right here. So why can't JavaScript just have this thing where you say, hey, get me this API and get the response back? Very confusing. So it was time for me to go out and study a little bit about how JavaScript works, and I found this excellent YouTube talk right here by this guy named what is the guy's name? Philip Roberts, and the title is "What the Heck is the Event Loop Anyway?" And I definitely recommend that you guys go and check out this video. In fact, our time here would be much better spent if I were just play this and go sit down and let you guys watch that. But that'd be kind of cheating, so I'm not going to do that. And instead, I watched it once. I have this idea in my head of how it works, and I'm going to try and describe that to you right now. So I'm going to step down here so I don't fall off while I'm doing this. So first of all, we all know that JavaScript is a single-threaded thing. Everybody's always talking about JavaScript and being a single-threaded application. So in my mind, I have this idea of this Java thread guy sitting over here, and it must be really busy because there's only one of them. So JavaScript thread running. And you always hear about the event loop. Sorry about the noise there. We'll just have to deal with that. They always talk about the event loop. So obviously, the JavaScript thread is running in a circle like this, running. And when it has to do something like do an HTTP call, it hands that information off to the JavaScript engine. So meanwhile, the JavaScript engine is sitting over here. The JavaScript thread comes around. Here's my HTTP call. The JavaScript engine says, whatever, all right. And then it must send out a request of some sort. Maybe this is to do an HTTP call. Maybe it's to get data from a database. Maybe it's to read a file or something like that. But it sends out a call, and it gets a call back. I'm not exactly sure how that is done, but I'm fairly certain that a boomerang has something to do with it. So the JavaScript engine is sitting there, and I think this room is probably wide enough, but some of you guys back there on the back, you might want to put your heads down and put your hands over your head just in case. I just bought this a couple of weeks ago, and I think you're supposed to do it overhand like this and not like this. But let me just say that my neighbor and I have a contentious relationship, and it has not improved since I bought the Boomerang. So anyways, the JavaScript engine throws out the request, and then it waits for the response. Sorry. And it gets the response back and it says, oh, I have data for that JavaScript thread. Hey, JavaScript thread, here's some data. Meanwhile, the JavaScript thread is over here running around. I have data for you. Oh, I'm too busy. Don't give me the data yet. No, still not busy, still too busy. Okay, I'm ready now. And then finally, the engine gives the JavaScript thread its data. And so that's what's happening sort of in my mind. That's how I visualize how JavaScript works. It may not be 100% correct, but let's see here. So the next thing that now that I understand that, I actually need to have a server that I'm going to hit. And by the time that I got to that part of the project, I think I was sitting in a car. My daughter, who was 6 years old at the time, was probably at gymnastics practice. I didn't have a hotspot, and so I just decided to make my own little web server, and I just went out to something like Express and started a Hello World project. And in fact, here it is right here, localhost 5500. If I go there, I get a response. So I have a Hello World program set up right there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my code to point to that and make calls there and see if I can make this work here. And then ideally I'll be able to just simply switch out the API with this call right here. So once again, I need to make this call to this forecast. So I go right here, I'm going to run that, and bam! I made my call with Atlanta as the endpoint, and I got back a response. And these numbers here I put in here, which you probably can't see, yeah, it's I think that's 9. So it took 9 milliseconds to make the call, and then 16 milliseconds to get the call back, or is that a 0? I can't see. Let's try oh, 0. 0, so yeah, fast. My computer's fast. Good. Let's go ahead and do this for multiple cities. So let me I'll close that off, and then I'm going to go down here, and I put all 3 cities in here now, so oops. This was always the most difficult part, typing, which scared me the most about giving a presentation. So here I have all 3 cities, so let's see how that works now with this, what I've got going here. Oops, I need to save the project, save the file. Bam, bam, bam. So there we go. I got all these things, and I got them all within 18 milliseconds or something like that. So I'm kicking some butt here. So I have this script, and it goes out to these endpoints and gets all the information that I need. I need to just look and figure out how I'm going to hook this up to the service that I've chosen. So I chose this one called weatherbit.io, and of course I'm choosing the free version here to hit. And I got an API key and all that. And then I look down through here, and I notice this one line right here, calls per second, 1. I can only make 1 call per second. I can make 3 calls in 20 milliseconds. Why would I want to just, well, all right. So I'm going to have to figure out some way to slow this down. And so I looked at my code. I looked at my code here in this while loop, and I'm thinking, it would be so nice if JavaScript had something like sleep right here, maybe sleep 1000. And I just run that right there, and it would work. Let's go ahead and try that and see what happens. No, sleep's not defined. What do you mean? Perl has a sleep function. Java has thread.sleep and probably several other sleep functions in there. Why doesn't JavaScript have a sleep function? All right, well, I think I remember. Exactly. So about this time, my wife yelled at me and said, "Get off the computer. You've been on it all afternoon. We have kids. Your 3-year-old son is outside walking up to strangers, shaking their hands, telling them that he's the mayor of Grant Park. That kid never shuts up." So I wrote down some quick notes. The next thing I need to do is investigate throttling, because I think this has to do with throttling somehow. So I wrote that down thinking, well, tomorrow when I come back to pick up this project, I'll get back and remember exactly where I am, or maybe next week when I have time to look at it, I can get back to it, or maybe when I actually use my Google 20% time that our company sometimes gives us, I would come back and look at it. 2016, I have this brilliant idea in the middle of the night. I'm going to go on a road trip. I'm going to be in certain different cities. I want to get the forecast for where I'm going to be. And I will just program this. I can do it. I'm a developer. I can do this in JavaScript. So I started looking through my collection of projects that I worked on before, and I found one where I had an itinerary, and then I got an array of starting or of dates to check out, and then from that I came up with a list of cities that I was going to be in for each date, and then I came up with some unique cities, and then finally I was going to make an API call. So then I looked, I said, oh, I actually wrote some code here. Get dates, 5, yep, I remember that. And then I looked at the code that I wrote, and I said, ooh, this is crap. Pure crap. Generally, it doesn't take me 5 years to look at some of my code and determine it's pure crap. Sometimes the span of time is just like one lunch period. But anyway, so I'm not going to write it like this anymore. We don't like to use add strange functions, random functions to the global object there. So, and besides, now we have this thing called Moment.js, and Moment.js rocks. You can do all kinds of things with it. So finally, JavaScript has some date stuff in there. So I'm going to use Moment.js. So let me come down here, and here I am using Moment. The code doesn't really matter. I'm not even going to run it. It works. Next task is I have an itinerary and a list of dates. And oh, look, I wrote some code for that, and I used for loops. I don't like using for loops anymore. I mean, they used to be cool, but now they're not. Now we just we want to use array functions. And in fact, in this time, I just studied a whole bunch about the reduce function, and so now I'm a rock star, and I'm using reduce. So I just write a function, pass it to the reduce, and generate the object. Once again, it works. Believe me. The next step, third step, was to get a list of unique cities, and I looked at this and I think, I don't even understand what I did back then. This for-n crap code, crap. This is just what I get for being an average developer, I guess. And I say these things even out loud, even though I'm by myself, just so that in my brain I think, oh, some other developer from maybe an alternate universe me actually wrote the code, and they're to blame. But anyway, yeah, I don't use for-ns. There's this thing called object.values, and then I stole this tricky, cool, find unique filter function from the internet, and that works perfectly. It's brilliant. Finally, oh yeah, I also had to make these calls, and I looked at this and I thought, oh my God, this is so confusing. But I still remembered from 5 years ago about all this running around in this boomerang business, but I don't have to worry about that anymore. So I'm going to just get rid of all this right here. And now we have this cool thing called npm, and I can use this now. There's a package that some brilliant developers wrote called HTTP request, and I bet if you actually look out here, you can actually see the code for the HTTP request. And if you look down in the code and you search through it, you can see, like if I search for end right here, you can see that they're actually doing the same thing I did back in 2011, but it's now abstracted away from me. Brilliant, thank you, brilliant developers for being out there and helping. And this works right here. If I go back to my script over here, I need to probably comment out that ridiculous sleep call that I had in here. Let me Just comment that out. Oops. Comment. Save. And I see that, yeah, I'm making all those 3 cities. It's happening in 20 milliseconds. Brilliant. And then I look and see, oh, here's a note that I left for myself back in 2011. Investigate throttling. All right, well, it seems like I've done some throttling at work before, and so I go out to Google, and I type in JavaScript and throttling, and I start looking down at the suggestions, and we have throttling and debouncing and throttling. I remember using those functions before, and in fact, I remember using them with something we included in our projects. It was Lodash, I think. First we used underscore, then we started using Lodash, and then sure, here it is right here. There's a function in Lodash called throttle. And look, right down here, there's an article you can go look and see how that works. And so I went out to the article, and this is a great article right here. In fact, your time would probably be better well spent if I were to just read this article to you, and rather than me staying up here, but that would be cheating. So just look down through here. First it talks about debounce. There's all kinds of visualizations. I love visualizations, so I love this article already. Where's throttle? Here's throttle right here. Let's look at what it says. By using underscore.throttle, we don't allow our function to execute more than once every X milliseconds. Exactly what I want. That is exactly what I want. I want to make a call once every 1,000 milliseconds to the API. So I've read this article once, and I sort of remember how it went, and I sort of created a visualization inside my head as to how this works. And so rather than go through this article, I'm just going to show you my visualization. So you're probably wondering, what the hell is this right here? Well, it's pretty obvious that this represents a JavaScript program right here. And you're thinking to yourself, I have never seen JavaScript that looks like that before, and it would not be the first time that I've checked something in to get and heard that same clip there. So let me explain how this works. Well, I guess I should use the mouse. I don't want to walk way over there. Up here in this section, this is like a big funnel, and so like when something triggers something, it happens up in this big area right here, and it falls down into this funnel, and then it's going to roll down this ramp right here, this trigger that's generated. It's going to roll down this ramp, and it's going to stop right here. You can't see it, but there's like this thing that I call a well. This is like a gravity well. This thing's going to get stuck right there. And then over here somewhere, there's this JavaScript program, and it's saying, I want to run some expensive function, but only on my time. So when it's ready to run this expensive function over here, this trigger is going to be shot over here. So let's see how this works here. So there's my trigger. It rolls down, it gets stuck in the well, and then we have to wait because the JavaScript, we're not ready for it. It shoots over there. So let me show that again, because this is the coolest thing ever. It falls down, it gets stuck in the well, and after 5 seconds. Now what happens? Well, this JavaScript program knows that whoever's creating these triggers is a complete spaz a lot of times. So for example, if it's a mouse click, sometimes people are clicking the mouse, or a key press or something like that. So let's say that they're a complete spaz, that drops one down, then it drops another one down. Only one of them is handled by the JavaScript program. The other one just gets dropped off there. You saw that, can you guys see this okay? They're kind of just falling on the floor there. Can you guys see that okay? Yep. I didn't actually program a floor in there, so these triggers are kind of falling probably actually through the floor. In fact, they're probably going on a road trip very similar to the one I'm planning and ending up with the same destination. But actually, I lie because I'm always worried about this JavaScript thread running around in circles, getting exhausted, so I'm trying to improve its performance. And in order to do that, after they get past the Earth's crust or something like that, I'm removing them from the program, and it should be getting garbage collected. And when I think of garbage collection, I always think of the Harry Potter novels. Specifically, when Sirius Black was killed. He was like pushed through this gate of some sort, and he kind of vanished into the veil, they called it, I think. It looks something like this right here. You guys remember that? Harry Potter? No? Yeah. So that's sort of how I envision these things going. So let me speed up my visualization here. I had it set to handle it at 5 seconds, but I want to handle it 1 second just to move along here a little bit more quickly. So we have these triggers coming out here. We have some spastic person creating these triggers. I need to refresh my page here to actually have that change take over. Now let's try that again. Ooh, there we go. All right. So now, if they're really spastic, you'll notice that I have this this green bar or red bar that turns green, and that's just the JavaScript saying, well, every 1,000 milliseconds or 1 second, I'm going to go actually do this expensive function. No matter how many times you were out there being spastic with your triggers, only once every second I'm going to actually run something. So sometimes these triggers are created by things that are complete spazzes, like, for example, maybe dragging a mouse or something like that, in which case it might look something like this right here. You can see all those triggers, most of them are being dumped, but once every second, hopefully that shows up pretty well here. Excellent. Sometimes when you do things like this, they get stuck there. You have to egg them on a little bit. Come on, go. All right, so that's what throttling is. That's how I visualize throttling. Now, since we noticed that throttling and debug or debounce were associated with each other, I also created a debounce model in here, and so I'm just going to change that to debounce, and I'm going to change this back to 5,000 right here just to show you the difference between throttle and debounce. And I need to refresh my page here. So for debounce, this is, once again, dealing with spastic trigger people. And once again, it's going to wait until the timeout period is over and then handle the function. But for debounce, the JavaScript is saying, all right, you need to settle down before I'm going to deal with you. So instead of waiting for 5 seconds and then going, it actually resets the timer back to 5 seconds. So it's just saying, you do what you do, but I'm not going to go until you're done spazzing out, okay? Finally, poosh. So let's see how that works. All those just get dumped on the ground until we have one that is able to stay there for the 5 seconds. And then this laggard one there. So that's how debounce works. Well, so I like this visualization, except for I don't like all these circles here. They're kind of very skeletal, they're very cold. I have a empathy for the data that I deal with. I decided I don't want to look at these skeletal circles. I want to have something more interesting. In fact, I want to have cats, because we all love cats, don't we? And I'm going to go back to my throttle model here. So let me refresh the page. So I changed this cold trigger to be this nice warm cat. So for example, the cat might be Atlanta, and I'm going to get the weather for Atlanta. So I drop my cat in there. It spins down. And shoots off. Don't worry about the cat. The cat can land on its feet. Here, let me show you what my cat looks like. I forgot to do this here. I need to show you that it is indeed a cat right there. I spent hours on this sprite here. So once again, it drops down there. And this is going way too slow. I need to speed this up. Why am I going so slow? Let's speed this up back to the 1,000, because I'm going to be doing this every 1,000 milliseconds. And here we go. Oh my God, what is happening to all those cats? They're just being dropped. Oh my God, what are these cats, these poor cats. It's about this time that I came to the realization that I've totally been wasting your time for the past hour, because I did all this searching for throttling and I've explained all this stuff, but This has nothing to do with going out to a website and getting, well, I researched the wrong thing. As an average developer, that happens sometimes, I guess. You just have to stick with it, regroup the way you can't. So after I did some more research without throttling, I actually went to Google and I searched for JavaScript rate limit. And that turns out to be the thing that I actually wanted. And I did some more research. This is in 2016, remember, and I found this NPM package called Async, I think. And it had a method on there called each series. And so that's what I want to do. I want to make a call and do them in serial instead of having them all shoot off at once. But it was about this time when my wife said, "You've been on the computer all day. You need to deal with your daughter." My daughter, I had to go to middle school, pick up my daughter who had been in an after-school course studying Scratch. And I don't know if you guys have seen Scratch. It's a brilliant thing. I'm trying to get her to learn programming because it's such a wonderful thing. But it's this visual programming tool made by MIT, and you can create these programs by just linking things together. So here I have one that says, go to random position and play a meow sound until done. So, and if you, it has like loops in here too. If you put in a loop right here, you just drag it over like this and stick it in like that. And then I can change this from 10 because we don't want to hear 10 of those meows. We only want to stand 3, I think. And if I click on this, this is probably one of the most beautiful pieces of code that I've ever written right here. Just look at it. Anyway, that's Scratch. So I figured I would get back to looking at async in each series the next day or the next week or the next time. I'd use my 20 or Google 20% time. And then, so it's 2021 and I have this brilliant idea that I want to go on a road trip. And when I go on this road trip, I want to know the forecast of where I'm going to be for each day. And so it's like a personalized forecast. So let's see, I go back through my notes. I see that, oh, I've written something like this before, and here's what I wrote in 2016. Oh, this code is crap. We don't use moment anymore because it's been deprecated. Something about it not being immutable or something like that. So I'm not going to do it this way. I'm going to just get rid of all this code. 2021, I'm going to write it like this. We're going to use Luxon instead of moment. I mean, the guy who invented moment, he said, stop using moment and use Luxon, so I'm going to take his advice. Next year, there'll probably be a different solution, maybe. Next thing I had to do was I have an itinerary, I have some dates. I need to match up the dates to the city. In 2016, the way I did that was using this reduce function. Awesome, I like reduce still. But I hate that function thing. I don't like to use that function anymore. I like to use fat arrow functions. Something that looks like that right there. Yeah, so I got rid of that old code, got this new code. It works, believe me. Third step was to figure out unique cities from that object. And here's where I did some kind of strange thing where obviously I stole some code off the web because I have no idea how that works. That filtering business works, so let me just comment that out. Because now in 2021, JavaScript has this set object in here, and it has a spread operator, and you can just say object.values and then put them into a set because everything in a set is guaranteed to be unique. And I just do a spread operator, and I have an array of all the unique values in there. So that's how we do it there. It works, believe me. Finally, I'm going to be trying to hit all these cities here with a call. And back then I used HTTP requests, which worked fine back then, but it's kind of crufty now. So I'm going to not use that anyways. That anymore. I'm going to use this new thing that I like to use, which is Axios. Axios uses it does HTTP clients is an HTTP client, but it's promise-based, and this is something I learned over the past 5 years. First, I encountered promises maybe with jQuery, except we called it the deferred object back then. And then I started including a module called Bluebird into it was something I used from NPM. And they have a nice description on here, what are promises and why should I use them? It talks about changing from this callback standard to a promise standard, and it's beautiful. Believe me, I'll let you research that. Promises were brought into the JavaScript standard, so you can find it on the Mozilla website now. And but then another thing that JavaScript added was some syntactical sugar around promises, and that syntactic sugar is called async await. And it turns out I saw this talk just yesterday about how to deal with async await, and your time would probably be much better used if I just invited the speaker to come up here and do his talk again for you rather than me stand up here, but that would be cheating. So let me rewrite this as async await here by using my best code method of uncommenting. So the code that I commented out is exactly the same code as what I've uncommented. I'm still using Axios, but now instead of using promises, I'm using the async await keyword, and this actually works. We can actually go over here and see that it works. If I just run this again, works just the same as it did before. It turns out that I can do some refactoring now, and let me actually show you some different code. So this is the exact same code as what we had before, but I have a bunch more cities in there now just to make the visualization that I'm about to show you a bit more impressive. But basically, this is the same thing. We have our while loop. We get the forecast. We're using async await up here on this Axios call. And when I run it, you can see I'm making all these calls. I'm getting all these responses back. But this is still not doing what I want. I still have this problem with all these calls being made, and don't have that separation in there. So I need a visualization. So I need a visualization computer. So computer, hello computer, still doesn't work. I wrote this visualization here for what I was trying to do, and I did this in React. So let me start this up here. I have this React application right here, and it looks like a bunch of lines, and that's pretty much what it is. On that far side over there is where your client machine exists, and on this side over here is where some server exists. And so what happens is your client machine might send out a request. It comes all the way over here to where the server is. The server improves the request, the data that you've sent, and sends it back. Very simple. Let's see how it works. All right, we send the request, it slides over there, and it gets improved, it gets sent back, bam, perfect visualization. Now this is actually hooked up to a real web server, so if I actually go to localhost 5000 right here and click, you can see that I'm actually hitting that. If I click it multiple times, I get a number of calls going across there. I'm not sure that this is 100% exactly how the internet works, but it might be something similar to this, I don't know. If I were to go back to my program, instead of pointing to localhost 5500, if I go to 5000 instead, and then run my code, ooh, something happened there. This is what you call denial of service. Everything's coming over at the same time. We don't want that to happen. So the first step I'm going to take to deal with that is I'm going to refactor some of this code right here, and I can go into the details, but you would probably not enjoy that. So I'm just going to do it by commenting all this out and moving down. and uncommenting all this right here. So basically, what I've been able to do is uncouple the call to the end server with the way that the response is handled. So in fact, it'll show up a little bit differently here if I run it from the browser here. So if I'm pointing to localhost 5500. If I run that, oops, that's not the right server. That should be the right server. I need to save the program, obviously. So there's a little bit of a difference between the way it looks now and the way it looked before. Here you notice that I'm making the call and I'm getting back the response for Atlanta. I'm making a call to Killen, I'm getting the response back from Killen. So finally, we have all these calls going serially, which is what we wanted. Now, if we just had a function in JavaScript called sleep, we could just put a sleep in right there and sleep for a second, and then our problem would be solved. Well, it turns out with async await, we can create a method called sleep. And here, I've done it in code here. Maybe for some reason I did that twice. So you can make a sleep function by creating a function where you send a timeout and it returns a promise. And in that promise, you have to do a set timeout for a certain number of milliseconds. So if I just get rid of this right here, and this is async await, so I need to plug it in await right here. And let me make sure I point it to this other server here. You guys go away, I don't know what you're doing. And I run the script again. Hey, it's working. I'm making a call once every second. Finally, after 10 years, I'm running around my house. My son is coming up to me and going, "Dad, what are you doing?" And I'm saying, "This is brilliant. You need to be a developer, son. You need to be a developer." And here, look at this great visualization I created. And I show him this visualization that I just showed you over here. And he comes over here, he grabs the mouse out of my hand and says, "Oh, cool." And then he starts going like this and shooting them all over the place. I'm going, "Wait, you're using the program wrong. Stop that. Stop what you're doing." Maybe my son would be better as a QA person. What I wanted to talk to you about today, and I'm glad you all came, is something called OpenAI Codex. I filled out a form some time ago. I just got back a beta invite to use the code. This is OpenAI's, Elon Musk's company. They have a sandbox here, and basically what you can do is you can type in some text, and it will generate code, which I can probably do better. At this time in the talk, I've completely lost my ability to vocalize anything, so I'm just going to show you what you can do with it. If I type in here some instructions, for example, print an array of length 5, where each entry is a date stream of a particular format starting with today's date, and I run that, OpenAI creates the actual code and sends it back to me. And if we actually look at our console here, you can see that yes, indeed, it created an array, and in that array there's the 5 strings there, starting with the 10th through the 14th. I didn't have to do any coding. Let's try another one. I have it written down here somewhere. Oh. Control V. All right, this one says create an array of strings, and I put a bunch of towns in there, and I'm going to run that, and it's going to generate some code. And look, it's created an array of towns, and look, it even says var cities. It realized that those things were cities and named my variable something better than what I had. Brilliant, completely brilliant. Let me do one more. Computer, hello computer. Let's see. Use Axios to make 100 calls to localhost 5000 with a rate limit of 1 call per second. And I'm going to see what it does. All right, it's generating some code here. Let me take that code and see if it actually works. I'm going to copy that into my little test script here. I'm going to copy that in here, save that, and I'm going to go back over to my visualization over here, and I'm going to say, all right, I just did it in 15 seconds, what it took me 10 years to do. My name is Alan Herod. Thank you very much for coming. And one last thing here.